Welcome to the All Things Gratitude podcast. I'm your host, Nick Dorsey, and our next guest is a difference maker devoted to personally enrich the lives of at least 100 million people. I said that right, 100 million people by 2025. His new book, Z-isms, Insights to Live By, is based off his experiences as an entrepreneur, athlete, single parent, caregiver, and nonprofit founder. He is also the host of Insights to Live By, a podcast that invites guests to share their own life lessons. In addition, he is the CEO of the Internship Institute, which is established in 2007 to make experiences matter. Please welcome to the All Things Gratitude podcast, Matt Zinman. What's up, Matt?
Nick, can I just begin by saying I'm so grateful to be here.
Oh, thank you, man.
It's great.
Glad to have you on. Glad to have you on, my friend. Hey, so tell us a little bit. That's a big number, 100 million by 2025. So what have you been doing to reach out to 100 million people? Because some people are like, holy cow, man, that's a huge number. So what is your game plan to get to that much?
Well, that's a fair question. If I'm going to put it out front, I should be able to answer it. It started with the book and interviews like this and introductions like you just gave, where part of that was, well, he wants to positively influence and impact as many people as possible. And of course, that's true, but it didn't sit well with me. And I just really like to be specific and have a goal in mind. So I've also been leaning in a lot more this year, which was an intersection point with that. And I'll answer that part of the question. But then I thought to myself, well, 5 years, 10 million. And then I just thought about the exponential. It's like, well, if I could do 10, I can do 100. I know it sounds like, oh yeah, right. But I believe it. And that's just where I'm at. So in terms of what I'm doing, it's really a lot more about creating the foundation. And the past number of months, I've just been head down, leaning in on all the Z-ism stuff, because I originally hadn't planned to do more than write the book. And then the podcast came around. I'm in my 40s in episodes, and COVID sidelined the Internship Institute nonprofit you mentioned. So I just am swimming in, with the current here, and I've now developed courses and free video series and a community I'm launching. So it really is all starting now. I was launching next week, as a matter of fact.
Awesome, man. So you brought up everything. You said some of the struggles that happened to it. Do you have any plans for the future on how to start that again and get going back into that? Or is there a time frame, or it just laying low till maybe the world goes back to somewhat normal?
That I've given that some thought, and it's almost like you're going to know when the time is right. And I've got 15 years of my life's work into the nonprofit, in founding it, and all the things I've done. And I have a lot to show for it, but I will say that it's been nothing. I don't know that I could have chosen anything more difficult in terms of it being such a grind. And with COVID, the employers have really dropped the ball. I'm not just working and supporting college students. It's also veterans in transition from active duty, disadvantaged youth. But it's not going to happen if the opportunities aren't there. So I do still do some things about teaching around virtual internships. It's a specialty of mine. And so I do still have, so a little bit, into, that passion of mine. But in terms of the full startup, it's really more of something systemic that I'm looking to do, and not just setting up internship programs and mentoring programs and doing all the ground level work. It's really some big impact stuff. And I think it's actually going to be more possible in the next couple of years. But I'm going to let things unfold and step in when the time's right.
So what do you look at so the viewers know if they're interested in internships? What are you looking for in somebody for an internship? Certain job fields, certain, set of skills. What are you looking for to have somebody be qualified for that, I guess you would say?
When I hire for myself, or when I'm serving employers?
Let's say employers right now, and then we'll say for yourself after that.
Well, over the years, and part of what got me into this is having had 4 internships, I've supervised at least 300 interns. It just seems to keep adding up. And I've been working for myself since 2002, running a virtual internship since then. So I speak more to the experience of hiring interns for myself. Now, for the employers, my focus is really on setting up the programs, the best practices, making sure that the internships don't suck. It's really kind of the short way of explaining it, and just the mechanics of doing it right. There's a certain way to do it right, and when it's done right, everybody wins. And when it's done less than right, there's that diminishing return, and then it could be to the point where it just all falls apart. So, my goal in going into these employers is almost like Johnny Appleseeding or installing programs. Now, to answer your second question, where the students are concerned, I'll just go with that as a more traditional internship. Certainly, there's a lot of virtual internships that are happening now, and they're gaining popularity, just like we've all had to make our adjustments. And they're still not for everybody. You have to have a certain discipline and just structure. It's not that unlike taking a class if you're a student to do it, but it's also incumbent on the employers to be able to do their part to be able to manage it virtually. So there's kind of a meeting of the minds there. But really, Nick, as you'd expect, I mean, it's just all those qualities in terms of eagerness and just wanting to try and follow directions. And, you don't necessarily expect everyone to be good at the things that you need them to do. And that's the whole point. But as long as they have that, solid attitude and they show up, I think there's a lot that you can build on with that.
There's a couple things I took out of this. Is one, you mentioned best practices, and a lot of big corporations tend to forget about those at times and put them on the back burner. So I love the point that you bring that up, because there's something you need to practice constantly, to really keep the efficiencies and keep the business really running at a good level. They can make billions, but it doesn't mean it's running at a good level. You're just looking at the money. You're not looking with inside the company itself, which could be a horrible culture, so love that. And internships are something huge. And I love the fact of internships, but the problem is a lot of companies, I think they have them just to have them. They don't have them for what they're really meant for. Is you have to have almost somebody on board who sits there who is made just to be a mentor for that person to help them through things, because a lot of people just bring them in. Okay, their help. We're going to go sit them in this cubicle over here, figure it out, because it's cheap to very little pay out, for help. So, and I don't like that mindset of it, because if you're bringing people in, you're there to build their careers. You're there to build them as people, and you have to have somebody who can mentor somebody really well when you bring in internships. So how often do you deal with a scenario like that where it's just like they don't have somebody on staff? So what do you do about that to try to help that out?
Well, just the same as we talked about before with the students, internships aren't for everybody. Not every company, and they're not for every individual to do. And part of what we do has that vetting process. But I think when you really get to the heart of it all, where's the win-win? And I think that most people think of internships for larger companies or even small to mid-sized companies, but I'm a solopreneur and I'll work with at least 2 up to 4 interns at any given time, always virtually. And because internships happen one-on-one, whether you're one place or another. So I think you have to reverse engineer them. And by that, I mean, if you, Nick, for your business decided, I'm going to step back from everything that I do and take an inventory of what that is. And what are my endeavors that I have that I want to get done, but maybe they're on a back burner or things I could never get to on my own time. And really just take that stock and decide whether there is enough of a need that it's worth your time, essentially to trade your time to have interns do many of those things instead. If you look at social media or content development, writing, research, planning, phone, computer work, these are all core skills that interns can do. It's interesting that we're so deep on the intern topic, but I do think that solopreneurs should really give a strong look at it, because they might not think it's for them. And we've actually shown over time and some grants that we had and research that we did, you can convert 1 hour of a supervisor's time into 6 hours of productivity, which is another misconception that you don't have the time to do. You don't have time not to do it if you do it right. So we focus a lot on productivity, and the overall math on that is that an individual can gain at least 200 days of productivity a year if they do it the way I'm describing. So take inventory of the true work that you have, break it down, match it up with your recruiting. That's what I mean by reverse engineering. You're bringing the talent in that you need for the need that you've defined, and go from there.
One thing, I love it because part of my career, I've worked for tribal entities. So I've worked within tribal in the reservations and everything, or the tribes at different casinos and everything, and they all have tribal development programs within them. And I treat them like internships, even though they're getting paid. But when I train the people, it's a good system to see if that person really wants to go this route in their life. So that's what I like about interns, because you just don't get a job and you jump right in, then you find out 3 months later you do not like it. Now you got to look for something else to do that. That's what I love about the internship and like tribal development programs, because you'll find out quick if you really like something or not, especially if you have somebody good who can teach you or mentor you really quick and just give you I guess you slow down of what you're going to be doing this job and titles. That's the biggest thing, just explain what you have to do, but I love your thing when you said, you can turn people's time more efficient and everything. I hate when leaders say, I don't have the time for my team, or I don't have the time for this. You need to learn to delegate better. There's always time for your figure it out. You need to learn and become more yourself.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just a blind spot, and again, it comes down to the individuals, and we're in the weeds here a little bit, and now you know why it's been so difficult. So,
absolutely,
I'm glad to be swimming with the current, because it really it's odd, because over all these years, I'd have to say, even just leading into COVID, the current really got stronger that I was swimming against. It just somehow got more difficult. I'll say one last thing, because paying interns is a whole other matter. But if you're a company and you have the wherewithal, or you're a nonprofit, you have a grant or something, build in the pay, interns should be paid. It's not a trade-off. Credit,
I agree,
is not a trade-off. A day's wage for a day's work kind of thing. And look, and if you're a small nonprofit or an entrepreneur and it's just not possible, then it's that much more incumbent on you to get back. And that actually is the benchmark, is that the intern has to get more out of the experience than you get out of their labor for unpaid internship. So that's the short on that.
Agreed, 100%. So tell us about your book, man. How's that?
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things that it's just like a lot of people. I've had it in me for a lot of years, and certain concepts around earned confidence and being aware of spiders and energy management and on, perception. But really, it's broken out in about 4 categories. You've got self-discovery and mindset at the foundation. You got to know, where you're at and what you're about and where you're headed. And then a lot around well-being and even managing energy is in there as well. So being a life athlete, managing mood health, which I speak to as someone who's conquered depression and it's something I've had to contend with since my teens. And I advise a lot about that. And then you get into relationships and interactions, and then you get into legacy achievement, and really coming out of the book and now courses that I've developed around this with a very specific game plan about having a life upgrade moving forward.
I love all 4 of those, and I build those, because someone like me, that word's hard. That I don't like talking. I don't like putting this stuff. So it took me a long time to really get into me that I do need to build a legacy, and it's not about being conceited or anything. It's actually, what do I want to give back to the world? What do I want people to know me as? Of, am I this type of person? Was I a cool person? Was I a bad person? Because legacy can go both ways. That's what people don't realize. You can have a good legacy or a bad legacy. And I love the fact they talk about that, because that was hard for me to get past that. Well, if I build a legacy, I feel like I'm conceited, and I don't want to be conceited. I don't want to come across like that. So I think it's a struggle for some people. I don't know if you see that or not.
I think that when we talk about legacy, and certainly you look at it as in and around achievement. But it really is about aligning with your values and goals. You don't have to be somebody who wants to set the world on fire, of course. And a lot of people find that value in making an impact beyond themselves. But a legacy can just be, it can be about your family. It can be about raising your kids right and spending time with your grandkids, and having no regrets. When when you're later in life, and know that you have the foresight to then get to the point where your hindsight aligns with what it is of the life that you wanted to live. So again, you don't necessarily have to be a kind of person that is, I want to enrich the lives of 100 million people or anything like that, big goal or otherwise, as long as you're clear about what that means to you.
One thing I am struggling with right now. Is people always ask me what my legacy is for my podcast. And you know what? I don't have an answer yet. So I really don't know. I did this for fun. Matt, this was all for fun, So now it's like, now you're making me think about it, and I didn't know if I wanted to think about it. I just wanted to enjoy it and meet some really cool people. And maybe this is my legacy, just maybe you'll reach out and one person off this cast will hear you and you'll change their life just because of something you said. Maybe that's my legacy. Who knows?
Well, you raise a good point, although it's a little subtle. And yet I think one of the more important ones is someone will say, well, who's your book for? And, I could break that down and try and do demographics, but the real thing is not who, it's when. So, are you at a point where you want to focus on, whether that's your legacy or your well-being, or take a fresh look at yourself and your discovery, or improving your relationships and interactions, these different categories that I'm mentioning. But, for example, for the Life Upgrade course, which is my master course that I'm launching next week. And if it's okay for me to mention, and it's a little awkward for me. I'm out of my comfort zone here, but the reality is, and what makes me think of it is, you're talking about an hour a day, approximately, for 29 days in that master course. So for less than a month, would you spend an hour a day to significantly upgrade your life in all of these different areas? And if you put it to people that way, it might be, they're either going to be like, yes, absolutely, you can't put a price on that or what have you, or it's like, an hour a day, that's a lot. Then it's not the right time for them. But those who are drawn to that, I think of it as like a monthly, as a diet, but in another way of approaching it, that hour a day, you're going to come out the other side a lot better off.
Yeah, I noticed I've done multiple 30-day challenges, kind of similar to that. And my friend has a mastermind class he's doing. And, it's just the 30-day classes that I did, or the 30-day challenges, it only took 15 or 20 minutes. And at first I was like, I don't know, because it was at certain times. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be tough. But like you said, it was well worth it. They were both well worth it, because it's building another routine. And the networking part of it was the best part about it, Matt. It was absolutely, I learned it, but connecting with people that I would never connect with, talk to, or anything, just because I won't say statue or levels, but I'll just use that as layman terms, because, I'm down here. This person's a CEO of a Fortune 100 company. What's the chance of me ever running across that person and talk to them outside of that class? So, guys, check out Matt. These are well worth it. They're absolutely well worth it. So, after the show, get a hold of them.
Well, it's funny, Nick, and I can't claim, I'm a little analog, so I can't say I'm like a social media guru or what have you, but I'm not sure yet if you're on Clubhouse, and I'm starting to get used to it. And I decided that I'm going to launch a show starting this week as well. I'm just getting my head around it. I'm just going to go for it. It's going to be a little sloppy at first, right? Just kind of like throw yourself in and, turn the room on and see what happens. But that's what you have to do, is just step into it. And I think I'm bringing it up because that reminds me of, that's the experience, because you go on there and you just never know who you're going to meet or engage with. And I think that's one of the appeals of it. A lot of people are taking to,
and that's one thing for me is, I'm a type of person, I will accept everybody's friend request, connection request, follow, whatever it is, because I have the philosophy is you never know whose life you can change, or you never know who's going to change your life. I've connected with a couple people that weren't even in my job field, weren't even that. People are like, you're making a mistake. You're making a mistake. Guess what? They gave me job offers, and it changed my life into a different direction. Oh, it's your philosophy and your agenda. I'm not telling anybody who's right or wrong. That's just how I work. And then you mentioned Clubhouse. I love Clubhouse. I've hosted multiple rooms on there. I've signed up for a club. Yeah, I'm ready to, once they give me the okay on my club, I'm going just 100 miles per hour on it. I've met so many amazing people on that also. And what I like about it, Matt, you're interacting with the people right there. It's not through a digital format. You're actually talking with them. So you get to know them really quick.
It's raw. It's unfiltered. And I don't know, Nick, maybe we can collaborate here.
Absolutely.
We'll
Would
see.
love, I
You
would
know,
love to, man. I
have
love hosting
moderators.
rooms.
I don't
Yep.
want it to just be about, actually what I'm looking to do is have it be about everybody else, because when you talk about a Z-ism, it's really those insights to live by. It's those life lessons, and we all have them. So my goal is to bring people in the room and talk to them about theirs, and have that be the conversation starters. And that is what my podcast is about too. So, but
talk about that.
About insights to live by.
Yeah, plug your show, man. That's what we're here
well,
for.
you know, it's like you. I started out really just kind of, okay, well, it's, you know, what's with COVID, you know, like what's going to happen here. And so I had the microphone for the interviews for the book, and it's like wasn't going to be that hard to lean in. It just actually came about as a major coincidence that I had following a podcast I was on where the host was like, "Hey, you ever think about doing this?" And it's like, "No, I never thought about doing a podcast." And then a couple of days later, I ran it again. It's an analog thing, right? And then a couple of days later, something happened that was just too much to get into, but it was just bam, hit me square. And then I've leaned in, and so the podcast is really like a 2-in-1. So I'm doing solo shows, and I came out really hard. In the first 5 months, I did 35 shows. And now I'm just going once a week. And then the others are guests. So like I said, I'll bring the guests on, get to know them, and then we'll get into their 3 insights to live by is the, you know, formula of the show. It really just follows this exact same pattern every time. It's going well. So Anthony Trucks, Dave Meltzer, Halataha was on my show recently.
Great.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So really getting some good people on for sure.
That's awesome. You know, podcast crazy because I was doing videos. I remember my first one, man, I was so nervous. And it's funny to look at it. It was such a train wreck, but at the moment it was really cool. But you know, I always talked about podcasts because people were having me on. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm like, I gotta do mine. And I pushed it off for months, Matt. And finally my friend Ira Bowman.
Ira
just up on a post. So he called, "You gonna do your podcast?" Yeah, man, this is you called me out on this. So I'm not gonna lie, I had a couple of adult beverages that night, right in, and I filmed the first. I'm in a because it was like 110 here, and I'm just like, what? My face is bright red, and that's how it all started.
Hey, you know, whatever it takes to get your comfort zone expanded, right? I mean, I do the same thing. I mean, everybody's got their comfort zone, and then there's everything beyond it. There's always more that you could strive toward, and I'm certainly, you know, on that steep curve now. You know, leaning into everything that I'm doing. I would love to talk with you about some of the gratitude grounded principles in terms of with your, you know, your audience and theme that in thinking about things for the show that I'd love to deliver on if I could.
Yeah, no, I mean, this show's for you, man. I mean,
this show's for your audience. It's
just to expand you out and, you know, get your network out there, expand your network. Yes.
Well, a lot of that. I mean, look, if one more person gets something out of this, that's what it's about. But a lot of what, and I can't say I went into it thinking it quite this way, but the way that it's worked out is a lot of my focus, certainly at the upfront part, is around living in the present, because those who kind of live, or, you know, we all live in the not now, right? You try and minimize that, but that is really at the heart of a lot of unhappiness, whether people realize it or not. So when we look at different pillars for staying present, certainly mindfulness and that initial, you know, practice of awareness is right at the foundation. So is gratitude as well. And I'm sure that you've covered that topic quite a bit. The one thing I want to say about gratitude, I'm sure there'd be more to say, is that I think people think of it a lot as an action. Oh, I'm going to write 3 things down, or I'm going to do, you know, that typical journaling, which is important. That's part of the practice. But gratitude in and into itself is an experience, and it's a mindfulness experience. And so you really have to be at one with what that is, so that you can internalize it and then align those true feelings with enrichment and joy and all the things that go with it. So I just want to reinforce, as much as you may have talked about it already, how important gratitude needs to be an experience in order for it to really be being true to yourself. go ahead if you wanted to say
No, I was
anything.
going to say, I agree with that. Oh, and so this show, the name wasn't my idea. Professor Pete Alexander, big shout out to you, my friend.
Professor Pete. I was on his show. Yeah.
Oh, Pete's great. With the DM group I have, 10 or 11 of us. I just asked him, I go, guys, I'm thinking of a name for a podcast. Wrote down multiple things. I go, throw me out. And people threw out some amazing ideas. Then sent this and said, Nick, you are all the time videos. This is how you and people. So I was like, bam, there it is. I thought it was important to see what other people viewed me as, not as I'm viewing myself as, because it's not about me who I view myself as. It's like reaching out to you, Matt, reaching out to the audience, is what they view and what they want to tune into, what can help them. So that was the big part of this. So that's how how gratitude came up, and I just love it. I just absolutely love this.
I do think it's spot on, and it has to be right for you. And of course, externally coming in, it's like gratitude. You can't argue with that. I mean, everybody likes that, but it has to align. And we're just getting to know each other, but you're a very authentic guy, and that authenticity, comes through and really connects to the gratitude. And I'm sure that's why a lot of people connect with you. And in our pre-show, you mentioned that you just hit 1 million downloads total. Is that right?
Views, clicks.
Yeah. Congratulations.
That is, thank you. Wow. It's weird because a number is a number. Okay. And I'm not taking anything away from that. Don't get me wrong. Because I don't want to view it that way. I just want to view that, hey, I'm glad people are enjoying this, kind of the aspect, because my podcast is not a job. It's not a job for me. It's fun. Now, Matt, if it was a job and somebody was paying me to do this and that came up, the number change, then the mindset will change different on that. But where I'm at right now, I just enjoy this. I have family who watches this. I have good friends. We got a network, and I will get a message every show. And it's only one DM or a couple where it just says, your show today just, it was fantastic. Your guest did this. And then if they say that, I make a personal connection in a DM with both of them, because obviously that guest did something for them. And that's my way of showing gratitude for them helping me. I'll make that connection for them, and it's just about fun, Matt. Right now, I'm in the fun stage. I'm in the lot of fun stage.
Gotta stay in the fun stage.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Well, I have a special request in hearing what you're saying. Anybody who's hearing this, wherever you are, this is a great opportunity to send Nick a DM. Every single person to express just a little gratitude, how much you're enjoying his show. Doesn't have to be this one. Just a shout out to Nick.
I appreciate that, man.
Right. Well, that'll keep you busy for a week.
Oh, I get about 100 DMs a night. So
maybe
I
don't know if it's going to end up being a practical joke on you or not. It's the best one.
Trust me, if Ira and Professor Pete, they'll send me they'll send me something funny. They'll keep me on my toes.
Awesome.
People like them, but
in terms of staying present, I just want to come back to that, because there, certainly mindfulness and gratitude are right there, and a lot of people speak to it. But there are some unique things that I speak to that set apart. I mean, when I wrote Z-isms, I wasn't out scanning anybody else's book. It all came from within me, and that's why I know it stands out. And when I come into these interviews, and so I want to get into that a little bit of that content, because a lot of this is at the foundation of self-discovery and mindset, and everything flows from that. So the first one is around winning the battle within, and around the notion of kindness. And a lot of people talk about kindness. You think immediately, oh, of course, kindness toward others. But this is specifically about self-kindness. And it's incredibly important as a building block for personal development, because if you're wherever you are, let's say if it's a who versus a when, and you're like, I want to work on myself, and I want to work on my self-esteem or self-confidence or self-love, or just, how do I get from here to there? And it can be very vague. And so the reality is it is very vague, and that's one of the things that makes it more difficult. But self-kindness is not. It's a this or a that. You're either being kind to yourself or you're not being kind to yourself. And so it becomes a barometer for helping you make that kind of progress at that foundation. And in the model that I talk about, I mean, it's naturally it's too much for the show that we're doing here, but it's really about also only letting your past be to your advantage, as opposed to, for the most part, it not doing us any favors. So whether that's regrets and resentments and shame and grief and all that baggage, all principles of self-kindness will eliminate that. We'll win that battle within. And then the second one is really the other is to ward off future thinking. And that's called earned confidence. And this is actually my chapter 1. It's one of the main reasons why I wrote the book. It goes back to my mid-20s. My mom actually was terminally ill, and I saw her through those latter years. It's almost 25 years since she's gone. In fact, this coming month is. And yet at different times, like anyone who goes through that, you think you're going to lose somebody. And you go through that anguish of, this is it. And then she'd pull through, thank goodness, and you have more time. But then you realize that you got ahead of yourself, that you put yourself through a certain greater level of grief than you needed to. And so it just gets to the point where you're like, well, I'm just going to deal with the real. And that's what this is about. And when you look at earned confidence, and we talk about self-confidence, earned confidence is something we all have because we've all been through all of our different challenges in life, obviously all of which we've overcome. We're survivors. We're still standing. And so what earned confidence is a reminder of is that you're fully capable of dealing with events in real time. You don't have to get caught up in worry or anxiety or making assumptions or anything that takes you out of the present into something into the future that it remains an uncertainty. So you want to stay away from all those uncertainties, and it just like mindfulness, just like gratitude, just like self-kindness, all these things take practice. So, but the reality is that you have earned confidence clearly because, you're still standing, and it's something that is a powerful way to help ground you into the present. So I'll pause there before going on to the next one.
I love that. So really quick question about your book. So one of my goals I wrote down this year is to start or publish a book. So way back in the beginning, when you have these thoughts and everything, was it somebody who pushed you to write the book? Was it a fellow networker, colleague, or whatever, or was it just like one day, Matt, you look up and you're like, boom, got these ideas, I need to write them down forward?
It was really an intersection point for me. I actually did a journey into publishing. One of my early episodes, I think it was episode 4 or 5, to talk specifically about this. A couple of things happened. One is I was a single dad for a lot of years. My son Jake, from age 2 to 16, and then I'm remarried very happily to the love of my life now.
Awesome.
But Jake is he's almost 21, and so at the time, I didn't need to be parenting very much. So I gained some time there. And then I was between grants with the nonprofit. So I had a window. My wife, Erica, and I have another business. So, we're okay there. And it was a window of opportunity for me to say, well, what do I want to do here? And it took me to that place. And at first, of course, you're like, well, do I really have a book? For anybody. And what I would recommend is that you just get into action. Take a weekend. If this is important enough to you, you can invest, the better part of a weekend and just start writing and put down your concepts and frame it out, and then pull back and be like, well, what do I have here? This could be a blog, or, show it to, some people who you trust and see what they think, and that'll give you encouragement. Now, for me, I really got to the point where I wrote and I was like, oh, I did it. I'm done. I'm like, oh no, like 8 months later, I had to keep going. But I really felt like I got to the point where I almost went too far to turn back. It's kind of how it went for me, was my experience. And, to each their own, but I think, it's not going to happen. Obviously, if a book's not going to write itself. So just get into action and see what happens is the best advice I have.
That's awesome, because I had a couple other people say, you brought up blogs. So I've written a couple blogs, and they write a bunch of blogs that do your journey and everything, then bring them together, because the bulk of your writing will be done. Now
That's
you
exactly
just got to fill in, you just got to fill in the middle sections a little bit, and I'm like, okay, good idea. I'm not a writer. I am telling you right now, Matt, I am not a writer. So writing those blogs, what I did is I have a very good friend who, I wrote down all my ideas and she wrote the blog for me because she has mastered the English language. It is amazing how she writes. She's an amazing copywriter. And I'll do this. Throw out to Erica Warfield, aka
Nice.
Warhammer.
All of our Ericas.
Yeah.
What I will say there, Nick, also is I wrote the book as a conversation, like you're sitting next to someone in a coffee shop. That's kind of the tone of it. And when I write, I think differently than how I speak. And so for those who are not great at writing, fortunately technology is there where you can speak into a mic and have the the transcript.
Absolutely.
So I actually think books can end up being better if you get into that rhythm where you can do whole sections and things that it's going to be a little sloppy, but to end up piecing together, because it'll be more conversational than you wrestling with words the whole way.
Yep.
And that comes through as well. So that's another piece of it.
Do you have a copy of the book around you? You can plug it up really quick.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of author would I be if
there it is, everyone, there. Z-isms. Bam.
So, and that's Z-Man right there on the cover. So
see, perfect. Guys, on LinkedIn, it's down in the comments, the link to Matt's website. Check it out, and I'm sure you can find the book there. And hey, check it out, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to do a time check with you. We okay for a few, or you want to?
Hey, man, no, keep going, man.
Awesome. Well, one of the things that I am speaking to more recently, right? This continues to evolve. After self-kindness, after earned confidence, is the notion of happiness.
Yeah.
And I could digress on a few things around the notion of happiness, but it's really about striving to make the most of every moment. And it's really about real-time optimism. So when you think of optimism, it's always forward thinking. Again, we want to stay present, and happiness is about that real-time reflex, that you want to develop that reflex. Whatever event is happening, whatever circumstance, situation you're dealing with, go for the reflex of positivity. So happiness is about the real-time reflex of positivity. And if I was going to do anything in terms of impacting that 100 million, any single piece, beyond earned confidence and self-kindness, I think it's encapsulated in the happiness concept. And it's not for everybody. It's honestly like people hear it and they're like, that's not a word. They're like, well,
yeah. So when I read it, I was
well,
I love it.
The reality, Nick, is that every word that ever was started out as not being a word.
I agree.
And there, I couldn't find anything that existed that really captured this concept quite that way. And so my wife, she's not a fan. My daughter, her daughter, but my stepdaughter, Greta, she's great at keeping you humble at these kinds of things. She was like, it sounds like something a first grader fell asleep, during nap time and missed the lesson that day. I was like, thanks, Greta. So, but yeah, no. So I'm just running with it because, if it's something that you take to, then you get it, and the time is right for you to dig in a little bit more, and it's the concept that matters. So,
maybe that's your legacy. 30 years from now, we look in the dictionary, happy internet, is there. And
I absolutely have. I absolutely have every desire. Same with Z-isms.
That's awesome, man.
Why shouldn't we think that? I mean, that's kind of that's the goal. And to me, it is. To me, these already are words. Yeah. So,
no, that's awesome, man. Love it. Absolutely love it. That's some good stuff. So going back in the day and coming up, what led you to go down this path in your life? Why are you being who the Matt is today? What led you to that?
That's a point of reflection that I do revisit. It's something that I've always wanted, as a core value in being a difference maker. One thing that came up for me recently, and I mentioned this on my show this past week, is that when I promoted the book, of course, you tell everybody you've ever known. And there was a gentleman named Warren who was a mentor of mine very, very early in my career. I haven't talked to him in 25, maybe 30 years. And, I got, in touch with him and he came back and he's just kind of picked up where we left off, right? One of those types of relationships. And he said, Matt, I've always known you to be relentlessly positive. And I was like, wow, like 30 years ago, you kind of connect with yourself, reconnect with yourself. And that is, that is happiness. It's about being relentlessly positive. So I just feel like it's just something that is just an innate quality for me to want to make a difference. And I'm very clear about it. And the irony of it is, if it wasn't for COVID, I might've just written the book and left it at that. And, I wasn't like, I'm a coach and here's, with all due respect, here's my book, come coach with me. But I've had to lean in because of, making the most of the pandemic to go in this route. And quite honestly, Nick, I don't know that I've ever been happier.
Awesome. I love that you said you reflected lately, self-reflection and all that stuff, because of the fact I was on an accountability call this morning. This is great, with my friend Jordan Mendoza. And one of the things that came up was always remember to go back to the basics. Always remember that, because that's what got you where you're at now. And sometimes you forget about those, and the basics is what keeps you going. But you get so caught up in just going 100 miles per hour, 1,000 miles per hour, that you kind of forget the basics, and you have to go back and revisit them every once in a while to get back on the level you need to be. Because if you forget about them, it can be bad, at some point. So
Jordan is one of the most grounded people I've met in recent years. His Blaze Your Own Trail podcast, and I had a blast, being on that with him. He's got a young family. I think he's got 5 kids.
He's got 5 kids, and he looks like he's about 25 years old.
Right. He looks like he's 25 years old. I'm like, he's doing something right. Yeah. But, he's always there with a word of encouragement. And I know he's a busy guy, and I've seen him, comment on our comments, and, just one of my favorite people. So shout out to him.
Yeah, big shout out. Jordan and I are really good friends. I've had dinner with him multiple times. I've flown to Atlanta and hung out with him, and I do some work with Jordan. But, Jordan was there when I really needed some help. I didn't put it out there or anything, but man, he just jumped right on. Come on, man, let's do this. We got this. And I was like, he's a brother to me. He's my brother. That's the way I look at him. So, just great guy, like you said, overall. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's one of those people, like, he's one of those people who you meet and you're like, I know this is a really busy guy. I'd love to stay in touch with him, but I realize, he's busy, and he stays in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? It's just crazy. He'll just out of the blue. We text quite a bit, but just out of the blue, coming, hey, just seeing how you're doing, just checking in. I'm like, dude, don't you have like 10 calls today? Well, I'm in the middle of one. I just want to see what's going on. Yeah. I was like, damn, dude, take a break. Go get something to drink, do something, but no, that dude's on fire with all his stuff he's doing right now. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for everybody who has taken that risk and leap of faith to go out and be an entrepreneur and do their own thing and leave corporate America and just be their own boss, be their own CEO. And just what I like about him and you and everything is you're out there to help people. And the goals there, like you said, coaching earlier, I feel coaching happens if you're really true at what you do and you're good at doing stuff. Like I'll use Jordan, for example. People reach out to him. They don't even know he's a coach, to be honest with you. They're just like, your content has been, you've just been consistent for 6 or 7 or 8 months. What do you really do? Boom. And there he's got a client right off that. And to me, that is a true way to coach, is just, you're there, you be consistent on your social media. You're just consistent in life. You give out tidbits, you give out little teasers on certain things, and then people just start the conversation with you.
Yeah. I've kind of encountered that a little bit too. And, and ironically, I've made the decision I'm not going to coach. I've had a couple people ask me about it, and I was just like, no, it's because you can't, if I'm going to make the broad impact, I can't, I have to stay focused. So at least right now, I'm doing the community and things like that, but I'd like to coach at some point, but
yeah, I think it'd be fun, and I do these podcasts and I do Clubhouse, run rooms on Clubhouse and everything, I guess, or organize rooms. I don't, whatever, however you want to say it, but I do that to build for my public speaking, because that's a big goal of mine, is to be a public speaker.
Right.
And that's what all this is for. And it's building into all that. I'm not out there saying, well, I just kind of plug myself there, but I'm not out there saying I need to be a public speaker. You need to book me. You need to do this. It's just, I just do these. And if somebody likes what they hear, they'll get a hold of me right now. I mean, I'm in a good situation. I do have a 9 to 5. They're very good to me. I really love it. I really enjoy it. So building this solid plan B with my websites, with the podcast, talking about doing books and everything, I think that's very important for people to have a solid plan B, because I'm not saying COVID's going to happen again, but something like this can happen again. And what happens if everything goes away again? You don't have a solid plan B. What is that going to put your stress level at? And do you want to even imagine what your stress level's at that point? So I'm trying to beat it to the punch.
Well, what I love hearing from you on this is that, and it's great that you're not, that your day job, is a good situation. But when you're choosing your plan B, it's not even just something like, oh, I need plan B, like almost out of a desperation move. You're doing things that are filling you up. You're able to align your plan B with your innate passion, and it shows. And I can relate with the speaking and just trying to get better at things, and keep pushing yourself outside that comfort zone. So
yeah,
I'm rooting you on, my friend.
Awesome. So, hey man, I really appreciate, I really do, man. I mean, and that's the thing is, I think what we're all here for, social media and everything, is just to help each other. Seriously. I mean, I share a post the other day of my good friend, Marcus Ogden. It got some good clicks. It got that. And if one person DM'd him and asked him about his program, that's a win. That absolutely wins for both of us. And it took me about a minute to share that post and put down my little boo-boo in there, and that's how I built my brand first off LinkedIn, was just sharing other people's posts and just engaging on posts, because I had no clue what I was doing. I really didn't, but I'm like, I watched a Gary Vee video and he's like, engage on posts. That's how you build your brand. It doesn't matter what the post is, if it's relevant to you or not. Just engage on it. If somebody's at the gym, just tell them his t-shirt looks awesome, or get that extra pump in, or do something, I mean, just engage on it. And I did one night. I met Ira Bowman on his Follow Me Friday.
Good egg.
And after that, the network just exploded, and, it was just, that wasn't the goal whatsoever, Matt, but it just happened. And maybe that was, something like that, maybe with you too. And somewhere in life, there's always turning points, and there's always eye-opening points in life. And sometimes they happen, you don't realize they're happening. And for me, Things Gratitude podcast was made that day, but I didn't realize it turned into it. So,
well, I mean, certainly, when you talk about gratitude, you're also talking a lot about attraction. And while I know you haven't, maybe as you're describing, set any specific goals, it definitely falls under the umbrella of the goals that you've set. So I do think that some of these things are coming your way as a result of consistency and alignment with what you're doing. So, and good things happen. So that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got some people coming through here in the comments. So,
it's Annie Lieb. Hey, Annie.
So we just started following each other this week. So she popped up. So thanks for stopping, everyone. Thanks for in the show. I mean, I really appreciate when comments come through. We can help guests and everything. That's a huge thing. Matt, sometimes I don't know how to say things or explain things on how things happen, because these are like humbling experiences. They're like sometimes, and I'm a person who talks a lot. So when you get me speechless on some things, sometimes it's weird, but I get humbled by all these comments. I get humbled by guests who want to come on the show, and just people I've met, because it's just so much fun. You never know. We might turn into business partners or whatever. Not saying we're going to, but I'm just saying it could happen down the road. We could be doing speaking engagements together just because of a conversation like this, because we ended up reaching out to each other and said, yeah, let's jump on the show. Let's see how it goes.
Well, we could totally see a path, right? Earlier in the show, I brought up Clubhouse. Quite honestly, I'm just getting used to it. I wasn't aware right offhand that you were on there. I'll follow you right after this, I promise. And now we're talking about maybe co-hosting a room together, co-moderating, and where's that going to lead?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just weird.
Where are you based? Where are you physically?
Arizona.
You're Arizona. Oh, well.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to visit you.
Yeah, it's 80
my
degrees.
wife, Erica,
so come out here.
Erica's trying to convince Greta to go to ASU because she
come on down. I'm like 30
visit out there.
Campus, so yeah. I mean, I live down more. Oops, sorry. I clocked that one off quick. Great conversation, guys. Congratulations on your book, man. Yeah.
That's awesome. That is nice to see. I love that.
Yeah, and now I'm about 30 minutes south, 35 minutes south of ASU. I'm kind of more down towards the desert area in a small little town, but I absolutely love it here. We moved here March 4th will be my 1 year anniversary.
Wow, it's recent. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's recent. And Arizona's been a little different than most states. Haven't been locked down. Everything's been fully open this whole time. Schools have been in full time. I mean, everything's thriving down here. So on that aspect, and I'm not meaning to push that in anybody's face. I'm just saying on aspect, it's been very nice to help the move. There's still been some things because my parents are down here. They have health issues. So my wife and I have been very, very careful about things because the last thing we want to do is pass it on to one of them with the health issues. And the guilt we would feel if something happened to them. So that, that's been our mindset for the last year, but my dad's fully vaccinated. My mom gets her second one, I think next week. So it's amazing. My dad went to my niece and nephew's soccer game last week and just the mentality. I mean, he's been inside for almost a year. I mean, he's golfed, but he's been inside for like a year. And,
right.
And that's something I think your book and everything can help out with people because this is going to be tough coming out of this. I mean, people are talking about it a little bit, but the mental stability coming out of people who've been not around people now for a year. Now you got to get put back in society. Yeah, I can't talk this morning. That's going to be hard for some people because some people just aren't, out there in front of everybody. It takes people to warm up. And if you haven't done it for a year, oh man, that might be a tough one for some people.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about going back to normal. I don't know what quite yet that's going to be for everyone. I mean, it's certainly looking forward to more freedom, but I do think a lot of people are kind of going to feel a little bit lost and losing a little out of touch with some of that. And but yeah, I mean, I totally get it. I'm really more concerned about the kids. My two teenagers, my son home from college, doing remote classes and things, missing out on those opportunities that he should be having in life right now. I mean, that's the tough stuff too. But even the young kids, this is going to shake out in however many ways it will. And there's a lot of support a lot of people are going to need.
And that was, I think, the big thing state of Arizona talked about. They go, we're putting the kids back in school. I mean, they were only out of school for a week. And they're like, no, this is going to be draining on them. They need to be in front of people. They need to be they need to be around other kids their age, and one helps out the parents too, because working from home and trying to do kids with school and everything, I don't know how some of the parents have done that. It just blows my mind. I've been on Zoom calls where the kids coming behind them. They're trying to do the schoolwork too, trying to do their work here. And I'm just like, man, I applaud all the parents who've had to deal with this because I'm past stage. Our kids are out of the house. I don't know if I could have dealt with it right now, so I applaud every one of you who've gone through it. I feel bad for kids who just got into college because your college experience is something you're never going to experience again in your life. It is, and you're missing out on that. Some seniors in high school, your senior year, as much as people don't like, you remember your senior year, and you do have senior parties, you have senior Tolo, you have senior
graduations,
graduation parties. I mean, I feel bad for those kids. They got in school for 12, 13 years. They at least deserve that boom going out the door. And now you're taking it away from them. It sucks, but we're going to get through it.
We are getting through it. That's the nice thing. It's like, I honestly haven't had a lot of public conversation about it. And yet at the same time, it's nice to be able to, as it comes up here and say there's hope. And, it's great that you've got, things are more free as it were in Arizona or and however that happens for people as they're getting vaccinated. But it's nice to be able to sit here, even though it's been a whole year and say, I could see the light at the end of it and that, we're going to be okay. And so certainly a lot to be grateful for in that regard. Absolutely. So glad it came up. And my son's going to go back to school. So
awesome.
I'm happy about that.
That's exciting.
Multiple
so really
reasons.
quick, before we wrap up here, Matt,
yeah,
let everybody know where they can find you. I did put your website and your profile below, but I know it's there, but just get that out to yourself, man. Tell us where we can.
Thanks. Well, if there's any one thing that I'd love people to experience, I've just created, launching this coming week, is a free video series. It's up on the site now. This is actually probably the first time I'm really saying anything about it publicly, but it talks about mood health, which is really important to me, and gives some tools to help people manage theirs and support others around them, to the very point we were just talking about, as well as around managing energy personally, in some ways as an entrepreneur and just day-to-day life, and then interpersonally and how we affect each other. So that's a free video series. I think it's a good entree for people to get to know me a little better and go deep on those topics, and then just kind of build off of that. So I'm just gonna plug the free series, and certainly you can check out my podcast too, but it's all at mattzinman.com. If you want to take a direct path, mattzinman.com/free video series, I will take you right there. So that's probably my one ask if you're interested to know more.
Awesome. Like I said, everyone, if you're on LinkedIn, it's in the comments below. So just click on the link, go check it out. Honored that you made your first public statement about it here on the show. So thank you very much. Go check it out. Hey guys, in the corner, bam, come follow me on LinkedIn. I'd really appreciate it. Find all past podcasts right there on my YouTube channel. Come check it out. Find us on Anchor, iTunes, all those fun places after the show. And, we plugged him. So there's my buddy, Jordan Mendoza, Blaze Your Own Trail Consultant.
There he is. Awesome.
We love Jordan on the show. So such a great guy. Everyone, thank you for being on. Hey, go down in the comments, hit us up there. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. This will be on Instagram later in the next couple of days. I'll get it uploaded to Instagram. So, Matt, it's been an honor to have you on. Check out his book. Check out his website. Hey, find us on Clubhouse. So, everyone, have a great day. I sound like a horrible podcast host here. My calendar said March 6th was booked. I cannot find who the guest is on March 6th. I went through all the emails. My calendar usually puts in my calendar. So if I have you booked, DM me. Get going. But no, I have everything June 1st. I just can't find March 6th, and it's nowhere in the calendar or anything. So maybe I blocked it out.
It'll happen. And that's what matters.
Off. That's okay.
Everybody just show up. It'll be a nice surprise.
20 people are going to email me. Yeah, we're just going to have a big old show. So awesome, Matt. Thank you so much, man. Stay safe, stay healthy. Tell the family hi. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks, everybody.